All right, hello everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Good. I've got a thumbs up, couple thumbs up. And this is Jim Rutler, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be looking at the HealthView 2 with the Air Avionics ATD. I think many of you know who I am, but if not, I'm co-founder of Aithre. I'm head of design and engineering for Aithre. I am a RV10 builder. I have an instrument rating, and professionally, I was educated and practiced as a patent attorney prior to founding Aithre. The HealthView 2, just a couple little housekeeping items here. HealthView 2 is the latest bioavionics system from Aithre, building on the first generation system, HealthView 1, and expanding its capabilities with the output and controls. It was built in partnership with Air Avionics of Germany. They make a line of multifunction radio transponders, altimeters, weather traffic receivers for light aircraft, and now one of the nodes on the network is the HealthView 2. The webinar today, we're going to cover navigation, configuration setup, data, and pairing layouts, thresholds. I'll go through all this in detail, but dosage, control, armed, and injection modes. And the webinar is going to be recorded. Many people are in Europe, and it's 1 in the morning there, so there are people that will be watching this after the presentation, and that means too that you can get anything that you didn't catch quite live. You can access the recording afterwards. All right, without further ado, I'm going to jump right in, and we're going to talk first about the components. What is the HealthView 2? So the HealthView 2 comprises 2 components. One is the ATD and the data bridge. So the ATD is what is outputting, and it's the user interface for the controls and the outputting of parameters. The data bridge is what makes it possible for the ATD to get the data from all of our Aithre devices, output it, and then feeds the controls that are input from the ATD over to the turbo and the Avi for the oxygen control. As far as the ATD, there are 3 varieties. So the data bridge is identical between all 3, but there's the portable version, which is the ATD 11. This one features a RAM mount on the back. Again, these are made by Air Avionics and are used for their transponders, their radios, altimeters. On the back of the portable is a 1/4-inch socket. It's much like, it is identical to the GoPro type mount. So if you choose this option for your control head, you get any GoPro type mount and you insert it here, and then you can purchase any type of portable adapter on Amazon like this one here that articulates and has an adhesive back. And you can mount that in the aircraft. I used that for about a year in my aircraft while we were doing prototyping and testing. The data connections on the back are built in. So even though it's portable, it's kind of a hybrid. It's got 2 D-sub 15 HD connectors on the back, one of which is occupied by the HealthView, and the other of which can be used for the FLARM and ADS-B traffic and weather. We've got the ATD 80. Now this is the 3 1/8 inch panel display mount, so it's a 3 1/8 dial cutout. And then we've got the 1/4 inch dial cutout. I'm going to switch the camera over to ATD 57. Now this is the 2 1/4 inch dial cutout. But again, you can choose between either of the 3 options for the control head, but then the data bridge will remain identical between the 2. I'm not going to cover wiring in detail, but I am going to just give you kind of a top level overview. The wiring for the HealthView 2 is pretty simple. There's going to be power and ground. The total voltage is anywhere from 12 to 30, and the total current at 12 volts is about 20 milliamps. It's very low power draw, not 1 amp, but 20 milliamps. And that would be identical between all 3 of the screens. That's screen and HealthView 2 data bridge combined. So we need power and ground to each of the ATD, and we need power and ground to the HealthView data bridge. Then between the data bridge, there are 2 data wires that go to the turbo or the Avi oxygen system, and 2 data wires that feed between the HealthView data bridge and the ATD control head. And that's it. If you've already got a HealthView 1, then it is a drop-in replacement for the HealthView 1. So the wiring for the back of the HealthView 1 is identical to the HealthView 2 data bridge. Give you an idea size of the HealthView 2 data bridge. I'm going to switch back to my main camera. All right, for those of you who already have the HealthView 1, that's this size, and the data bridge is identical in size to the HealthView 1. So the data bridge is identical in size, but it's mounts behind the panel and is unseen, but it kind of gives you an idea of the overall dimension of that data bridge. And if you have the HealthView 1, you take that out and you put the data bridge in its place, and then from the data bridge, there's a couple more wires that feed up to the ATD. Overall sizes, I kind of referenced those, but the HealthView 2 data bridge is about 60 millimeters by 20 millimeters by 110 millimeters in dimension. It weighs just an ounce or two. The ATD 57, which is the portable variant, this one is about 61 by 61 by 26 millimeters, or 2 1/4, 2 1/4, and 1 inch. And then the ATD 80, this is your 3 1/8 inch cutout, but the overall dimensions are going to be 83 millimeters by 83 millimeters by 26 millimeters, or 3 1/4, 3 1/4 by 1 inch. And then the ATD 57, which I'm going to switch back over to that camera. This one is going to be a 2 1/4 inch cutout with an overall footprint of 61 by 61 by 26 millimeters, or 2.4 by 2.4 by 1 inch in overall dimensions. Okay, so as far as pairing, I just want to talk before we get right into the navigation, and we'll kind of get technical for many of you who have already bought it or have it. We're going to dive in and we're going to cover how to use it in detail. But before I do that, I just want to talk about the high-level data and pairing. So the data bridge takes care of all of the communication between the ATD and the Aithre devices. So that includes, if you've got a shield for carbon monoxide, a Lyrian for blood oxygen level, a Metis for outside air temperature and dew point, a Meso for tank pressure, a turbo for oxygen concentrator, or an Avi for on-demand or pulse-demand oxygen. All of those devices, the data is gathered and presented to the ATD via the data bridge. So how does it get the data? All the oxygen systems get the data directly with a wire. So it's a serial wire that is connected from the HealthView data bridge to either the turbo or the Avi. The reason why it's by wire is obviously it's more reliable, and we're dealing with oxygen. We want to be able to have reliable information to output as well as reliable control of the oxygen. So all of that data, I think that makes sense, comes via wire. Everything else comes via BLE, or Bluetooth Low Energy. So if you have a HealthView 2 and you open up an Lyrian oximeter, that data will automatically show up on the ATD. It's gathered automatically by the HealthView 2 and presented over to the ATD for display. Same thing with the shield carbon monoxide and the Metis for the environmental condition data. All that data is gathered automatically via BLE and then fed up to the ATD. Now, the Aithre Connect app is no longer required because the ATD does more or equivalent to the functions of the Aithre Connect app. However, the Aithre Connect app, if open, reinforces and acts as a relay of the data from the Lyrian, the shield, and the Metis. So the BLE data is pretty reliable, but if you have the Aithre Connect app open, the Aithre Connect app has a better antenna through the phone, and it will pick up the data more reliably and then relay that over to the HealthView 2 data bridge. So if you just open up the Aithre Connect app and make sure that the Lyrian or the shield or the Metis is paired to the Aithre Connect app, it will automatically reinforce and relay that data to the ATD via the HealthView data bridge. And then one other note is that if you are running more than 2 Lyrian oximeters, say you've got a co-pilot and you've got the people in the back and you're monitoring everybody's blood oxygen level, then you must have the Aithre Connect app open, at least running in the background, as the Aithre Connect app keeps track of which pulse oximeter goes to which occupant of the aircraft and then relays that order to the HealthView data bridge to keep it in order. If you're just monitoring the pilot, which most people are, then you do not need the Aithre Connect app. It will automatically show up in the pilot position because there's only one in the aircraft. Okay, now hold your questions to the end because I've got a lot to cover. And at the end, I'll have plenty of opportunity and I'll stick around to make sure everybody's questions are answered, but I probably will answer most of the questions as we go. So I'm going to jump into navigation now. So navigation. On the HealthView 2, there is an inner knob and an outer knob. And there are soft keys across the top four of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Generally, the outer knob flips between the pages, and there can be up to 9 pages. That's customizable. We'll talk about how you do that. And the inner knob, which is the longer knob that protrudes, that will take you over to dosage control. And we'll talk about how you control which dosage control or which occupant that jumps to. But here is the inner knob, and then I'm hitting the top left soft key that says done to revert back. So it's very simple to navigate. So again, outer knob flips between the pages, inner knob gets you over to dosage. Now, if you're in the dosage controls and there's multiple stations or you have multiple turbos, once you're in dosage control from the inner knob, you can flip between the pages with the outer knob and then escape back out to the data presentation page. The access configuration mode, hold down the inner knob, just push it in and hold it down for a few seconds. It will jump over to configuration mode. And this is where we're going to spend a little bit of our initial time is doing the initial setup here. When you first get the HealthView 2 and the data bridge, the very first thing that you're going to want to do, we preload all the licenses, so you don't have to worry about that. But there are 2 parts to the HealthView 2 ATD. I'm just going to refer to this now as the ATD, but there are 2 main menu items. There's a system, which is the ATD, and then the HealthView specifically. So we're going to begin in the system, hit the inner button to select, and there are a number of options here. Now, this is all dedicated to hardware control of the actual ATD. Remember, the ATD is capable of doing FLARM, weather, and traffic. It's capable of doing, they use the same control head for comm radio, transponder, and pressure altimeter. So that's why we've got another menu for the hardware control. But the menu items you want to be aware of here in the system. So again, I'm going to escape out so you can see it and hit the system. Is number 1, you can verify that the license is installed. So that's under installation. And then scroll all the way down to licenses. That's number 1. You can see what's been installed here, the HealthView and the traffic view. I'm in the simulated mode, so both are installed. Okay. We take care of that for you, but if there was an issue with that and you needed to re-enter it, that's where you would do it. The next thing that you need to do is on the back, you'll recall there are 2 data ports. I'm going to flip back over to my my screen so I can show you these. So I'm just grabbing one. They're identical, and all of the devices have 2 data ports. All the ATDs have 2 data ports on it. So you have to choose what you're connecting the HealthView data bridge to. Is it either the top or the bottom port? It's up to you. It doesn't matter, but perhaps you've got a radio or you've got some wires behind the panel and you need to route it. You can choose either the upper or the lower port. Let's switch back over to the ATD. And to do that, it's very simple. You hit connections and you choose what you've got connected. So here on the lower port, I've chosen Aithre. And you just choose it by pushing the inner knob and then escaping out. That's number 2. So first do the license, then make sure your connection is correct. If you do not have the connection correct, then no data is going to show up and you're going to be frustrated. So you have to make sure that you choose that. Okay, the other thing that I like to point out is there's a background. You can choose either white or black background. It's up to you. So I like the black personally. And then there's an illumination. It can hook up. Now that's in the backup 1 menu item here. So again, I'm going to show you the menu tree system. Come back down to illumination or installation. Sorry, installation, then illumination. And here you can choose either manual, where you can set the intensity manually, or auto. So if I do auto, you can see it dims a little bit. Just for purposes of the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and set it to manual. But do note that you can do auto and you can hook it up to a lightning bus if you like, an independent lightning bus. So I've got it on manual and I'm going to bump up the intensity. The intensity of these is just wonderful. They're Air Avionics got their start in the glider community, and gliders require two things: high visibility because of the canopy, and there's so much light in the cockpit that the high visibility is important, and low power, which is where you get that 10 milliamp drop from the ATD. The visibility here is great, and you think you can see that. And then if you want, when you back out of this, we're going to go over here. Simulation mode is another menu item that you might want to be familiar with, because maybe you're looking at, you might want to purchase another product, or you just want to see what that product would look like, or you can actually enter in simulation mode at any time. You're not going to hurt anything. Just turn it on or off here. I've got it running, so I have access to every data field, and you might want to do that too. But otherwise, just make sure that's off. So again, one last time, I'm going to escape out. I'm going to show you how to get to configuration mode one more time. So you hold down the enter button, hit the system, and then you've got access to all the menu tree here. There's more options and you can kind of get familiar, but I just wanted to highlight the most important ones. Next, let's go over to the HealthView. So this is where we're going to set up the options for the HealthView portion of the ATD. So again, menu item, the main root here is HealthView, and then from there you've got number of passengers or installation. We're going to spend our initial time here in the installation page. Number one, the very first thing you got to do is you go into system and you want to choose what devices that you've got connected to the ATD. This is why do you do this? Because if you don't do this, then the ATD and the HealthView are not going to look for those devices and they're not going to present the data to you. But it also indicates to us if you're expecting an Avi or you're expecting an Illyrian and you're not getting any data, that is an indication that something's wrong. So we're asking for positive indication of what you're expecting here. That's so that we can verify that you're getting the data that you're expecting and that you want to get. And number two, we want to create an auto layout based upon what you have selected. Now you can modify that layout, but we want to get you going with some fields that we think are important, because there are a lot of fields and it can take a lot of time to kind of sift through and figure that out. So we've done all that work for you. So all you got to do here is go through all of these items and just tell the system which ones you've got. So how many places of the Avi? If you've got a 4-place Avi, you can put that here. How many turbos do you have? We're just going to load everything up so we can see what it looks like. How many seats are in the aircraft? Let's say there are 6 seats in the aircraft. How many Illyrians do you have? You have 6. And do you have the Metis installed? And do you have the shield installed? And here, what is the volume of your oxygen bottle? Why does that matter? Well, when we do time remaining calculations, it's based on this liters that you enter here. So we know the flow rate, but we don't know the volume unless you tell us. So if you tell us the volume is 925 and we know the flow rate's 1 liter a minute, we can calculate you've got 925 minutes remaining. So make sure that's accurate. Now, if you don't have an oxygen bottle and you're just doing a turbo for the concentrator, then you can ignore that or not configure it and it won't have any impact. Here's the most critical part. When I hit escape here, top left button, after I've entered in and changed up all of the devices that I own, it's going to, there's this page here. It says click the inner knob if you want to generate an auto layout. Any other button, one of these, will escape without auto layout. Well, obviously we want to do auto layout right now, but if you have spent time doing the auto layout and then you have chosen to modify that layout to suit your needs, which I will show you how to do, and you hit this button, it's going to overwrite all of your work. So be careful of this. Auto layout is a warning. It will help you, but it also can create work. I'm going to hit auto layout. It's going to generate all the pages and all the fields automatically for me, and then we can walk that back. So let me escape out. We're going to actually, let me hit this. So we will cover what I'm doing here in a minute, but I'm going to just change that up. We're going to escape out so you can see what it looks like. Now you can see there's just tons of pages. If I flip through on the bottom, you can see that outer knob. I'm flipping through all of the pages. On page 1, we've got a turbo. On page 2, that same turbo. On page 3, the second turbo, because we indicated we had 2 turbos. Page 4, we've got flow rate and respiration rate and oxygen tank pressure and pilot and passenger 4 blood oxygen and heart rate. Page 5, we've got the passenger 5 blood oxygen and heart rate and all of their respiration and flow information from the Avi, medicine shield information, carbon monoxide, outside air temperature, dew point spread, and another page dedicated to the turbos and whether or not the status is good, what the onboard temperature is. There's a lot of fields here. This may be overwhelming. So what can we do? I certainly, in my RV10, I do not fly with 9 pages. It's too much. I fly with 2 or 3, depending on what I'm doing. So how can we simplify this? Well, number one is we can go back by holding up configuration mode, go back to HealthView and change the devices that we want to install. So here I'm just going to simplify and we're going to say we've got a 2-place Avi. Most people don't have all these things. So we're going to do no turbos. We're going to have 2 seats. Illyrian sensors, we're going to have just 1. And we'll keep the medicine to shield in the oxygen bottle. We're going to redo the layout. As we back up, we're going to come on over to, escape out. And now you can see there's 3 pages. That's a lot more manageable for a flight. 1 page has your carbon monoxide data and your outside environmental condition data, shield cabin temperature, carbon monoxide, outside air temperature, your pressure altitude, relative humidity, dew point, and your dew point spread. Another page, page 2, has your flow rate, your respiration rate, the oxygen tank pressure, and whether the state of the actual oxygen station and the dosage amount. And you've got information on the pilot that is equivalent. In addition to that, unlike here on page 2, for the passenger, on page 1 for the pilot, we have blood oxygen and we've got heart rate, which are due to the fact that we indicated we had 1 Illyrian. So that's where it's pulling it. Now, let's say you're on a flight, like I fly with my dad, who's a little bit older, obviously. So when we fly together, I often want to monitor his blood oxygen on my page. So I want to show you how you can modify the auto layout. So all you got to do is go back to configuration mode, go to the HealthView, jump over to the installation, go to layout now. And on layout, you have access to all the pages and you can define how many pages you've got. In this case, we've got 3. We can change that, but let's just, for experimentation here, let's go to page 1. And we've got some information. We're going to cover what that is in a bit, but we've got 3 bars and 4 boxes. So the screen size is creating a little bit of overlap of the text, but generally the bar, you've got on every page, you've got 3 optional bars that you can configure and 4 boxes. And that remains the same on every page. So here we've got Avi pilot dosage in the box 4, which is in the lower right-hand corner. I'm just going to change that by selecting it to passenger 1 blood oxygen level right here. So I'm going to change it. Currently, it's Avi pilot dosage being shown, and I'm going to change it to SPO2 of passenger 1. Now I'm going to escape out. We come back, and now you can see right here, we've got passenger 1 SPO2 99%. Now you can do that in flight. It's not going to harm anything. So while flying, and I do this all the time, so depending on what I'm doing, what altitude I'm at, or what equipment I'm running, I'll change up, or who's in the plane, I'll change up what fields I'm looking at to kind of to simplify my user interface and reduce the number of pages that I have to look at. I try to just put everything on the page 1 that has to do with oxygen and everything on page 2 that has to do with the environmental conditions. And if I need a 3rd page, you know, for one reason or another, then you can add that. But 2 pages seems to be pretty manageable for me, and I like that. Now, this is what I was trying to indicate before, is that if you take the time to modify your pages to suit your particular needs, and then you go back over to, you buy a new product and you put that into system, and you change one of these fields and you hit done and you hit escape, right here it's going to say, do you want to overwrite it? And if you do that, it will overwrite your work. So just hit the top left button and escape out, and it will have no impact on the field that we changed, which will remain here as your passenger 1 blood oxygen level. Okay, I want to talk about the ranges. So if we go back to configuration mode, HealthView, installation, range, every parameter. And before I do that, I want to show you one other thing, because this has to do with that. If you go into one of these fields and you want to change the bar, there are 60 fields that you can choose from, including all of the environmental fields, all the pilot information, all the passenger 1 information, all the passenger 2, passenger 3, passenger 4. If you have a 6-place aircraft, you go up to passenger 5, all the turbo information. There are a ton of fields to choose from. The auto layout was our best guess as to what we thought would be important for you. But if you want to change and you own a turbo, you can change the fields to be, on page 1, you can indicate turbo 1, state, fault, injection flow, temperature, flow rate, and blood oxygen level. To your heart's desire, you can customize it to meet your needs. So there are a lot of fields there. I don't want to imply that there's only a couple or suggest that. Now we're coming back out, I want to show you the range setup. So there's general information. This is all the parameters that don't pertain to a particular individual. So carbon monoxide, tank pressure, pressure altitude, outside air temperature, humidity, dew point. All of these have the ability to color code the data. You don't have to change this. The default information that we provided to you is going to be applicable for most people. But say you've got a carbon monoxide issue in your aircraft and you want to change the value of what is normal. So you don't want to fix the issue. You're going to fix the issue. You know it's a problem, but you don't want your co-pilot, spouse, your partner to be concerned. So you can come in here and you can bump up what is blue and bump that up to 30 for the flight. And you know about it. You don't need to be reminded that it's amber. So that what will happen if you change that here is that any carbon monoxide that is in underneath the 30 parts per million level, which we're going to go over to the environmental, will show up as blue, which is here. And so the bar graph, you can't see it because it's very low at 6 parts per million, but you can see the colors of all the other fields. Now, those are going to change based upon the ranges that you set up, and you can control all of those independently. One cool feature, and I'll save you a lot of time, is if you come over to the range setup and you go to the pilot and you change one of these for like blood oxygen level, or say you have a heart rate issue and you want to know when your heart rate goes above 100, well, you can change it so that between 100 and 120, your heart rate will show in an amber color. Now, once you've changed it, you want to do that for other passengers. When you go into passenger 1, there's a copy button up here in the top right, and that will copy whatever you've set up for the pilot. And you can do that for all stations. So if you want to take the time to set up specific customized ranges for the pilot, then you don't have to replicate that work when you go into the passenger 1, passenger 2, passenger 3. You just copy it. Okay, now we're going to talk about advanced page options. And then we'll round it out with the trigger and for the Avi and the turbo. I want to show you something in the page layout. So if you go back up here and you come to, again, showing you how to get here, installation from the HealthView, layout, and we want to modify one of the pages. You can change the title. So we've kind of, again, the auto layout, we've created the first page we've labeled as pilot, and we have assigned that to the pilot seat, and the setting for the dosage control is for the pilot. But you can modify this. So I could change the title to cabin, or it could be all passengers or health, whatever you want. That's what's going to show up at the bottom of the screen. So we could just, I'm not going to take the time to kind of walk through it, but you can change that title, and I'll show you where that shows up right here at the bottom where it says pilot. And so all of that is configurable. So you don't have to have one page dedicated to the pilot. It can be one page dedicated to health for all the occupants, or heart rate, or whatever other parameter you feel that you want to measure collectively. There's 2 other options that are less intuitive. And when we were working on this, this is actually a feature that took us a little bit of time to think through to get it right. There's a seat field here. And what that means is you can say this particular page pertains to passenger 1, or pertains to passenger 2, or passenger 3. If it's all the pilot information, then you're going to have that, obviously you're going to show up, you're going to choose pilot information. And what that means is that there's this field in the backup here and that we've been skipping over that says number of passengers. We've been changing things in the installation, but this menu here, number of passengers, you can say how many people are flying with you today, on the flight today, how many people are in the aircraft, not how many people are potentially in the aircraft. It's a 4-seat aircraft, but you've got one passenger. What that does is it simplifies dynamically for that flight all of the pages so that it just presents information for the pilot and the passenger. And if ordinarily you've got up to 4 people flying, the stations 3 and 4 are not going to show up. And how do you know what stations are 3 and 4 the pages that you don't want to show up? Well, that's where that field comes in here under layout, under page 1. If you say that this pertains to passenger 2, then when we go and we say that there's only one, or we're going to say there's no passengers today, based on that field setting, we come back, you can see that it has simplified everything so that now we've just got the cabin temperature and the METUS because we removed that page and we assigned it to passenger, I think we did passenger 1. And we said we don't have any passengers today. So then the ATD modified for that flight what is presented. So that's another way to simplify the data that is presented. And you can spend a little bit of time customizing that. Where that will really come into play is if you have 2 turbos or you have a turbo and an Avi on demand, and you've got like the back seats are on the Avi and the front seats are on the turbo, you can really play with how that data is presented for the flight based on how you assign those stations. I can answer more questions on that if you've got them, if it wasn't clear enough, or you can rewatch that video. But essentially, just to recap, you can assign each page to a seat in the aircraft. And then before each flight, you can come over to the HealthView and you can say how many people are flying with you, and it will simplify the user interface based on what you have assigned previously to those pages. And then there's one other advanced menu item under layout. For each page, you have the opportunity to choose the setting. What does that mean? That means that when you do a dosage control off of that page, it's going to jump to that dosage control. So if this makes sense, if you've got a pilot, you want it, when you hit that inner knob from this page 1, it's going to jump to the pilot dosage control. But if you've got a page that's like cabin, and you want to jump over to the dosage control, you might want to put that as the pilot so that it jumps right to the pilot station. Or you might want to say, I don't want any dosage controls on that page. Where that shows up is I'm going to put this at pilot. I'm going to change this back so that we have it show up again. And we're going to back out. Now we've got the pilot page because we were flying with no passengers. So that's just going to keep the pilot page that we've designated as pilot. And if I use the inner knob here, and I turn it from the pilot page, it's going to jump to the pilot dosage control. If I change that to cabin and none, then I'm on the cabin page and I hit that, nothing will happen. And you can see that happen here on the medicine shield page. Nothing happens. I rotate that inner knob and I get no dosage control because it's on none. But I could choose to have that be the cabin page and jump over to the pilot or the co-pilot dosage control. Okay. I want to talk about dosage control and then we'll pause for questions. And I can dive into anything else that people have questions about. Okay, so we're going to start with dosage control of the Avi, which are the pulse demand or the bottled oxygen-based systems. So we've got the pilot here. From the pilot page, we're going to use the inner knob and jump over to dosage control. So what happens by default is that on means that you're going to get a pressure altitude adjusted dosage control. Our algorithm is based on the 1 liter per minute per 10,000 feet and per user. So if you're at 100%, that's what the algorithm is based on. Now it's not actually delivering that because it's only delivering when you inhale. So the effective amount is 1 liter per minute, but the actual amount is something closer to 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3, but that does scale linear as you climb in altitude. But if you find that you're not getting enough dosage, then you can bump that algorithm up right here by saying 105 or 110%. You can go all the way up to 200. If you go up to 199, it will effectively double the dosage, which is very high. But if you go one further, it puts it into boost mode. And boost mode is going to get you a lot of oxygen. It's equivalent to 12 liters a minute, and it's an actual amount of about 2 liters a minute. So that can get your blood oxygen level up very quickly. And when it reverts back to the main page, you now have a yellow indication. You can't see this probably for the resolution, maybe too high, but it says O2 boost 62 minutes remaining. How do we know how long you have remaining? Well, that was because we indicated what our volume was in the oxygen bottle originally in setup. You don't have to do that every time, but that's going to tell you if you keep up with boost mode, you're going to run out of oxygen in an hour. So going back, we're going to turn that off. There's another way to more quickly get the boost. So the one way, as I showed you, is to actually dial it all the way up to 200, but you can also hit the soft key up here at the top. It says boost mode, and that will do the exact same thing, and you can dial it back from there. So again, on mode means you're going to get altitude adjusted oxygen based on our algorithm. You can go up as much as you want, and you can go down to 50% and save yourself a little bit of oxygen. If you put this below 100%, it will not actually give you less than 100% unless you're also wearing the Aithre blood oxygen monitor and it's outputting to the screen, to the ATD. That's just for safety. So like here, it's showing you 96%. If we detect that, if the ATD detects that your blood oxygen level is indicated here, then you can actually dial it back. So if you're acclimatized, you normally live in Colorado and you're flying at 12,000 feet, or you're 18 years old, you got a passenger who's 18 years old, their blood oxygen level is often going to be very high, even at moderate altitudes, and you might not need to waste oxygen on them, so you could dial them back if you wanted to. If your blood oxygen level dips below, I forget the exact number, but off the top of my head, I think it's 85%. If it dips below 85%, then it goes back up to 100% automatically, and it overrides that. Okay, armed mode. Armed mode, what does that do? This is really important. If you're paying attention to one thing, it's this. Armed mode means that your oxygen is going to turn off unless one of the thresholds are met. So if you hit that button and one of the thresholds is not met, you have the O2 light on. There it is. You turn that on and you hit armed mode. The O2 light will turn off and the oxygen will shut off until one of the threshold parameters are met. Well, what are those threshold parameters? You define them one time in configuration mode. Hold down that inner knob. You jump over to HealthView, go over to installation, Avi trigger right here. You can set up your blood oxygen level, your heart rate, and the altitude. That's in hundreds of feet. So let's say we want to have the oxygen come on automatically when we climb past 10,000 feet, or we'll just do 8,000 feet. If we do that and we put it in armed mode, there's a pressure altimeter on board the HealthView. So we come back over here, inner knob, and we hit arm mode, the oxygen will actually shut off until we hit 8,000 feet. And at that time, when you hit 8,000 feet, your O2 button light will come on and your flow rate will begin indicating. Now, this is just simulation mode, so it didn't shut off. As well, if we look at our altitude, we're above 8,000 feet, so it's going to remain on. If you have armed mode on, the maximum that you can set the altitude to is 10,000 feet. So if it goes above 10,000 feet, or you want it to come on automatically above 10,000 feet, can't do it. Like if you said, I want it to come on automatically above 14, can't do it. You're just going to have to, arm mode's going to override you and it's going to come on above 10,000 feet. So the only other way to do that, if you didn't want to wear oxygen to say 12.5, is you'd actually just hit the O2 button and turn it off and turn it on when you wanted it. But arm mode is a little bit more conservative for safety. Okay, that's the Avi portion. Now I want to show you the injection portion. So some of you have the turbo oxygen concentrator. Let's jump over to that, and we have to set that up. Very easy. We'll go to HealthView. We're going to say we've got one passenger. So actually, let's just say we have two. Go over to installation. And we're going to go to the system. We're going to turn off the Avis. We have 0 of those now, and we're going to turn on one turbo. And we have 2 seats, 1 Illyrian, 1 Metis, and 1 shield. Now we're going to hit escape and hit the enter button to do the auto layout. Boom. We're going to get a completely new layout. Escape, escape, escape. And we're back. Now we have the pilot, pasture 1 page, which are your turbo. So turbo oxygen concentrator for pasture 1, which shows you flow rate out of the turbo, the injection amount. So we got 1.5 liters total, and injection is off, and we have 1,750 PSI remaining in the bottle. So the injection works, it's a concentrator, and it works as pure concentrator, but at very high altitudes, you have the option to turn on injection, which takes oxygen out of the bottle, a pressure bottle, and layers it on top of the concentrator output to boost and enhance the flow out of the concentrator. So you can go even higher. It's kind of like a Chevy Volt. It's electric and gas powered, so you're going to use the electric as much as possible. You never want to tap into the injection or the oxygen bottle. If you don't have to, you don't want to do it. I flew with 4 people in the RV-10. I had 2 of these in the aircraft, 1 for the left of the aircraft and 1 for the right. So the left side, front left and the rear left were on 1 turbo, and the right front and the right rear were on the number 2 turbo. We flew at density about 16,000 the whole way, and I didn't touch the injection. So I didn't use any oxygen off the bottle, but I had it available for the whole flight where I could have tapped into it. How do you tap into it? Well, there are 2 ways. The first is you go to a page that has the turbo on it, and you do the inner knob, and it will take you to the dosage for that turbo, and you can hit injection right here, and that will begin the injection flow. Now we're just in simulation, but ordinarily in normal, once the injection starts after about 12 seconds, you'll get a flow rate that shows you what's attributed to the injection off the bottle. And the total flow rate would then go up. It would be concentrated flow rate plus the injection flow rate. And then over time, you would see the 1700 PSI begin to dip at that point. There's another way that you can do injection, and this is really neat. So if you hold down that configuration button, you can set this up 1 time. Because we said we had turbo and not Avi, there's a new menu item here that says turbo. You hit turbo, and we can put the high altitude override here for the injection. So you can say, hey, you know what? I don't want to think about it. Just if I go above 15,000 feet, I want the injection to come on automatically, and it will do that. And if it can't do it, it will throw a fault indication on the screen for you. Because the layout is just a little bit different with the turbo, I want to show you, again, here's pilot, turbo 1 is set in. That is what controls the dosage jump from the inner knob from the pilot page. You can change this to turbo 1 and put all the turbo information on 1 page, which is what I do. And then the seat would just be the pilot, because if you said that there's only 1 person, you still want to be able to look at that turbo. And then you can change the information on the turbo. Say you want to rearrange the bar graphs, you can do that here, just like you can with the Avi. Fault indication, temperature indication, whatever you want to change, you can do that. Okay, lastly, if you do open up the Aithre Connect app, again, not required anymore, but if you're running the Aithre Connect app and you've been using it and you're familiar with it, and you attempt to control the Avi oxygen or the turbo oxygen, it won't the HealthView 2 will override the app, and you will not have any controls from the Aithre Connect app any longer if you have the HealthView 2. You can review data and you can look at it, but the idea is that any dosage controls should come from 1 location, and we don't want to split it between having dosage control on the app and dosage control on the HealthView. So what takes priority is the HealthView 2. Now that's reversed in HealthView 1 because the HealthView 1 didn't have a lot of the features that HealthView 2 has. So there was the Aithre Connect app would override the HealthView 1, but with HealthView 2, the ATD controls all the dosage. So you can hit those buttons, but they're not going to have any impact on the Aithre Connect app for dosage control. Okay, so I'm going to pause there, and I'm going to take some questions, and I can expand on anything that I didn't make clear. So if you have, I'm going to switch back to my camera view. If you've got mute on and you want to ask a question, just turn off your mute. Most people are muted, and then you can just have the floor. Otherwise, I'll just hang out here for a few minutes and essentially, I think the meeting that I have prepared is over, and we'll just take questions at this point. Hi, David. How are you?
Doing good.
Yeah,
How about you?
Oh, very good. Very good. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have the system yet, and I'm just getting a general overview of this. And I talked to you at Oshkosh about it, but pretty well decided this is what I'm doing and just trying to get more info.
Okay, great. And Polly, how are you doing? Oh, you're on mute, Dave. I see if I can help you. I don't think I can control that. There's a little microphone that says slash through it. So if you just click that microphone, you should be able to turn it on. And James Reynolds, you have any questions?
No questions. I was just going to say, this was the most clear and succinct and really kind of nailed down some answers to questions that I had in the time that I've hadn't gotten to spend with it. So very, very well done.
Okay, thank you. You're hired. Okay, Bob, there's another Dave, Stephen, Dave Polly, Malaya. Hi, Malaya. There's Michael, Mark, Stephen, McNabb. If you guys have any questions. Hi, Malaya. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm great. Good to see you, Jim. Thank you for the overview. This is great.
Sure. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at the moment, but I know Chris was on another call, so he had me also join in. So now I'm going to have to repeat this all to him.
Everything's recorded. So after
Okay,
the event, then you should get a link to the recording.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, are there any other questions about mounting? There's one thing here that I want to show. So we created a adapter plate. If you've got a HealthView 1 and you want to go to the HealthView 2, again, the wiring is identical. It's a drop-in replacement, but there's an adapter plate which will cover that old hole. And in the HealthView, this is only available for the ATD 57, which is the 2 1/4. We didn't make any for the 3 1/8. And of course, for the portable, you don't need an adapter because it's on a GoPro style or camera mount. Are there any questions about wiring? I see people sticking around, so I think that there's got to be more questions. Maybe people are being shy. Don't be shy. No dumb question. If you got any questions about wiring or configuration, or maybe you didn't catch how I was jumping around the screen, or you wanted to ask more questions about layout or controlling the dosages or adding pages, whatever, this is your time.
Actually, it's not on that necessarily, but for a two-place, it's for an RV14.
Yeah.
I looked at your duration chart, although it's a little difficult to find on your website, but I did find it. So
Okay.
On the 1 liter per minute, you don't often actually with an Avi system, it doesn't go to 1 liter a minute very often, does it? Normally
No.
down like that 0.3 or something.
Yeah. So typically you're going to be, so the algorithm is based on 1 liter per minute. I'll give you the technical answer and then I'll give you the simple answer. But the technical answer is that the algorithm is based on 1 liter per minute per 10,000 feet. So, but we're giving that oxygen only to you at the 1 liter per minute flow rate, only at 1/3 of your respiration cycle. So the first 1/9 of your respiration cycle, we're flowing at 1 liter a minute. So we're giving you 1/9 of 1 liter a minute actual, because for the rest of the respiration cycle, we don't need to flow it because it's not actually having an impact on your body. It's just being wasted. So we turn it off. So it's about 1/9, somewhere between, depending on your settings, 1/3 to 1/9 of 1 liter per minute per 10,000 feet, to give you an idea. So practically, what does that mean? If I'm at 18,000 feet, I typically would see like 0.4, 0.5 liters a minute per individual. If I'm at 8,000 feet, it might be 0.2, 0.3 liters a minute per individual.
So basically what I was looking at was the 408 liter bottle or the 925, but for a two place, it looks like the 408 liter is probably the correct one for the Avi.
Yeah, even the 152, the RV14 has got quite a bit of baggage space, so you're not really under a space constraint, but we've had people running a 152 liter, which is a third of the size, and that gets you somewhere between 10 and 20 hours, man hours. The 408 is much bigger, but that would be more than enough. The 925 would be complete overkill. I flew from Washington State to Florida for Sun and Fun this year, and we were using the four-place Avi, and I had, depending on the legs, between 1 and 4 people in the aircraft, and we were always cruising at around 16, 17, 18,000 feet density altitude. And when I got there, only 500 PSI. So it doesn't use a lot, and you're in control of that. So that 925 would just be complete overkill for an RV14 for two place.
Okay, thank you.
All right. What other questions? That's a good one.
Jim, this is Dave, Paulie.
Hey, Dave.
Does does the data bridge hook onto the back of the instrument, or is it
Okay.
separate?
So it's separate. Looks like this.
Right.
And you can put it anywhere you want. So
Okay.
ideally, it would be near you because it is acting as a Bluetooth low energy data receiver. So in your aircraft, you've got the glider and you've got the VL3, and in those aircraft, you could position it really anywhere in the cabin. So it could be under the seat, it could be behind the panel, it could be in the baggage compartment. That would be suitable. If you had something like a 6-place Bonanza, you wouldn't want to put this all the way in the tail cone because the Bluetooth low energy from the Illyrians may not be picked up reliably. So
Okay.
you have a lot of choice. Yeah. What I did is I just mounted it about 2 inches behind my ATD 11. And thank you, Zoom. I got some help here. So here's an actual product HealthView 2 data bridge. And there's a D-sub connector on the back of it. So it comes with about 2 feet of extension, and you can extend that if you want. And there's just 2 data wires that go between the HealthView and the D-sub 15 connector. It's a 15-pin HD connector. There's just 2 wires. That's RS-232 transmit and receive. So you can extend those as far as you want without issue.
Okay. Great.
The ATD, all the ATDs, both the portable, the 2 1/4 and the 3 1/8. The reason why I'm really excited about integrating with Air or collaborating with Air is because we're just another node on their network. So the HealthView plugs into the ATD, but the ATD also does that same unit that you're using for the HealthView can be a dedicated traffic display. That's FLARM for Europe, as well as ADS-B, traffic and weather. And then an identical control head. So what I did in the RV10, I don't think I have an easy picture. Actually, I could probably do a screen mirroring. I'll just text it over to my panel real quick. And I just want to show you what I did. AirDrop, my MacBook. I'll share my screen here. Okay, share. Okay. So what I've got here is, this is a very zoomed in picture of the 2 1/4 inch radio. So what I did is I put my HealthView on the left, and then the matching comm radio on the right. And I actually did this right before Oshkosh because I wanted to put the HealthView, the new HealthView ATD in. And while I was at it, I figured, well, if I'm going to do this, I'll just remove the Dynon radio and I'll put it in. And I talked to Mark and said, Mark, are you sure this is going to work? He said, oh yeah, it's going to work. So I had no idea how to do this. It's the first time I really worked with radios. I took the Dynom radio out and I just hooked the comm, and so the transmit and receive, the speaker and the audio phones, and then power and ground up, and then there's a push to talk pin. And the radio worked with my current PS Engineering intercom. So and I actually really like this radio. I mean, we do sell them. That's not our primary business, but I would recommend this product even if I wasn't selling them. I'm that excited about it. There are two things that I really love about it. There's a say again function, which you can see right here, this button on the top left. It records every communication, both at untowered as well as towered airports. So if you miss a frequency in an untowered airport, a call in an untowered pattern, you can hit that say again function and it just replays it, so you don't have to get back on the radio. That's one nice thing. And then the other is that you hit this volume button and you can go over to the volume control, but you can actually listen to the standby comm frequency on a different volume. So you can have the weather in the background at a lower volume and have it continuously running. And then on top of all that, you can see the barometric pressure altimeter. This is actually hooked up to my static port in the aircraft, and it is a third backup pressure altimeter indication, which is really clear, and I like that feature too. So the air portfolio includes the HealthView, it includes the transponder and the radio, the altimeter, and then the ADSB traffic and weather, all using the same control heads. And so hopefully we'll get a comm radio possibly next year that works with the HealthView. Right now, it's traffic and weather and the HealthView, but I'd like to see that in the future and be able to use the HealthView and see some of the HealthView data on the comm radio as well. Right now, it's not. Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen here. All right, what other questions that anybody's got? Product questions, hookup questions. You're all hanging out for some reason, so I'm not going to get off until everybody's done. No, not really. We did talk a little bit. Hey, Chris.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm
It
great.
looks like
Sorry,
you've
I
raised
missed
your
the
hand. I
video.
like that.
Yeah, I did have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you tried both sizes of displays with your stuff? Does it show, how well does it show on the smaller one?
Well, like I can do it right now. So what's neat is the connectors. Let me just switch over to my phone. All right, so I'm going to unplug the connector off the back. This is just a temporary connector. And I'll hook up this one and you can see what it looks like. So let's see. The white is really brilliant. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go back to settings and we're going to make that the black background. It's a little bit easier on the phone. It's really brilliant in person. Let's go over to installation, background, turn that to black, and make sure that we've got simulation mode on. There we go. And we'll escape out. So I actually love this ATD 11. I really do. I used it for a year in the plane while we were prototyping. And it's a little bit bigger. The resolution is identical, so it's not a better resolution, it's the same resolution, but the font is bigger. And for what we're displaying, you don't notice the difference with the lower resolution,
No,
the
that's good.
effective. Yeah, and
Good.
the really neat thing about it is that you can actually put it in any mode, so different orientations. You can do that on the fly. So you can go here to installation and then orientation, and you can say, we'll do controls down. Back it up. And so this is the way I was running it in the plane. And I had it on that GoPro camera mount, which looks like this. You weren't here, Chris, but that's screwed into the back.
Yep.
Very small. And you get that online. There's lots of different options. This is a 1/4-inch stud and then a 17 millimeter ball. And this brand has a lot of, I like the quality of it. Fan Now, FANAUE. And they've got thousands of different configurations from, stick on or clamp or suction cup, and then a bunch of different arm lengths as well. But
Okay.
just unplug that. And the ATD, this one here, I don't know. I'll show you it. We'll turn it on. I don't know if I actually have configured this one to work. Plug it in here. Let's see if it turns on. So this is actually just showing you the traffic portion in a simulation. The screen fits
So
the 3 1/8 inch dial, but it's quite a bit bigger.
Yeah.
So
So was the other one you were running was the 2-inch? Oh yeah, okay. So that's the one you were on, was the 2 1/4 inch.
correct. I was on the 2 1/4, and that's what I have
Okay.
in my plane. But I mean, 3 1/8 is not much more money. I think we're charging $200 for the difference, but the size of it
Yeah.
is much bigger. I don't think it's really a factor of cost. It's more of panel space and what
Yeah,
hole you're
panel
trying to
space.
fill. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, good. And do they charge a license for the access? Like they do with
Hang on.
like if you're using a trig radio, they charge you an access fee if you're using the trig radio with their head.
So yes, there is a license fee for that. For the HealthView, when you buy the HealthView from us or from them, it comes with a license fee, so it's all included. But if you wanted to add the an output for the trig ADSB or COM or whatever, if you wanted to output that data from it, which I know that you can, the license fees are typically on the order of $300, so not a lot for the ability, but you've got to have the screen. And so if you already have like some information like ADSB traffic and weather that you want to output to the screen, we'd have to confirm that it was capable with that hardware with Mark. But the license fee is modest for the ability to expand the HealthView to feature more data.
Got it. Okay.
The comm radio, like when you have the comm radio and the transponder, which is very powerful, you hook up in the back, you hook up the comm radio slides right in. So I'll show you what that looks like. And this is the same thing. You can have their transponder or their ADSB traffic receiver, or you can hook up to a remote. And that's the same with the comm radio. You can use their comm transmitter, or you can hook up to a remote. I know it does work with Garmin and Trig. And I verified that it works with the intercom with PS Engineering intercoms, but I'm not a radio guy. So if you want more information on that, we can easily get Mark involved in that. But I was going to share the screen and we'll go over and I'll show you what that looks like. It's pretty slick. So I go over to so if you come here, you can see what it looks like. So they're capable of plugging directly into the back.
Yeah.
And so if you just had comm, you would just hook up. That's what I have, is I have one of these, and then my top one is empty. But with it empty, I've got the static port exposed on the back of the ATD 57. But you can see right here, I can't highlight it, but right here is another alternative static port pass-through if you're featuring both a comm and a transponder. So you hook the static port up to that, and that again was a $300 license fee to unlock the altimeter function that's already native to it. So you don't need any new hardware for that. The altimeter is just the $300 license fee, but the comm radio is the license fee, plus you've got to have a transmitter, either AIRS or a different one. And then the same thing with a transponder. You've got to have their transponder or a remote transponder. but then the license fee is about $300 for that too.
Yeah, I think you're only paying the license fee if you're using somebody else's radio.
That's
Or transponder.
correct. Yeah, it took me a little bit of time to figure that out. I was confused. Why do they have a hardware cost and then a software cost? And when I was doing the installation in the RV and doing the radio, that's when it really, became clear that there were a lot more radios to choose from than just the comm radio, which I'm very happy with. It's much better than my old Dynom radio, which was an old Trig radio. The clarity on it is very good. And so I was very happy with that, but I didn't know that I could have used it with the existing Trig radio, or I may have gone that route. My panel space pretty constrained behind. I've got so much equipment that there's not a lot of room. So it worked, but it was very tight.
Yeah, yeah. I like that you could put the transponder and the radio on one display.
I did too, and that's what it looks like. I mean, the clarity of it is just amazing. And again, Dave knows this, Dave Pauly knows this because they come from the glider community. They've got about 80% of the market for worldwide gliders and about 40% of the market for radios, transponders, and altimeters in Europe, not in the US. They just debuted in the US, and we're an early partner of theirs to help propel them forward using our customer base to expose their equipment. But I love it.
Yeah,
the
and Jim,
altimeter, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
yeah, this Dave, Paulie, I've got the comm radio with the altimeter, and I also have the Trig transponder tied into it. That transponder that Air has wasn't available when I got the glider, so I wish I'd have had it. But if I could use the traffic display on the HealthView screen, that would be great. Like the Flarm, you could probably get that to work on there. I know they have one, and it's a really good one because all the guys are using that. Actually, the president of Yonker Sailplanes has it in his the air the traffic for gliders. It's really
Yeah, the
good.
traffic is really important for gliders.
Yeah.
And then for me, I've got I'd like to, that's the next project for me, short of doing a second electronic ignition, which I'm working on. But the next avionics project is going to be adding the weather and traffic. If I can get that from my current Dynon advanced setup over to it, I would like that, because one of the limitations that I always find is that when I zoom in for the map view for approaching an airport, I might want to zoom in or zoom out independently of getting a traffic view. And that the traffic is right now is tied to my zoom level for my terrain, and I don't like that. I'd like to have something that was fixed, a 5 mile or 10 mile radius that never changed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Malaya, you are doing I read that you may be offering air avionics for Canada. Is that true? Are you guys going to be a dealer?
It looks like it. We're just kind of doing our due diligence right now, just to see, if it works sort of financially for us to, based on their margins and everything else, because there's a lot of costs that we have to absorb, including the currency. The currency risk is ours, according to their contract, and we've got the shipping risk as well, shipping costs, because they don't want to do that part of it. So when you put that in, and then you throw in somebody who wants to pay with a credit card, and our credit card fee that we get charged is like almost 4%.
Yeah.
A margin quickly slips to something that's not workable. So we want to make sure that there's some room in there for us to breathe a little bit.
Right.
Before we
love the product.
commit. Yeah, the product's great. We're already using it in the Shark. So it's already it's on the shelf in the Shark options list. Has been for years, but we've never sold one here because we can't use Flarm here. But now, obviously, we'll be able to do that, and